Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? I would like to lend my voice on the currency crisis that is going on in Nigeria. I mean, the dollar crisis, so to say, that is going on in Nigeria. And just to give a little understanding of what the exchange rate is all about, and also to make people to understand the system and probably seek to support what the Central Bank of Nigeria is currently doing on the Naira. First of all, let me paint a scenario. Assuming $1 is equal to 1 Naira, what do you think is going to happen? I think people will start buying things like toothpick, soaps, um, oils, and others from advanced economies like America, because they have the capacity to make those products with very high precision because they have machinery. If that happens, what would happen to a toothpick maker in Plateau State who does not have that kind of sophisticated machinery to produce toothpicks as good as those of America? He will definitely lose market. And the effect of that is we're going to have people lose their jobs. Let's go again a little further. That $1 becomes 50 Naira. Looking at buying toothpick from America and comparing it with the additional transport and probably custom duties on it, you find out that the price will be extremely much higher than that of the toothpick maker in just Nigeria. In that case, anybody that wants to buy a toothpick will take a decision on the quality of the toothpick in America and the cost, and then also the quality of the toothpick in Plateau State, Nigeria, and the cost. You weigh them, and definitely the cost of the toothpick from America is going to be too high, so he will settle for the toothpick in Plateau. In that case, you're going to have the Plateau company with retain their jobs and then retain their employments. So, having said that, let me build also another scenario to show us how the exchange rate is normally determined. The exchange rate is determined in such a fashion that when the country is buying anything from America or from anywhere outside the country, because the dollar is our convertible currency, it needs to have a stock of the dollar somewhere where it will use to buy those products abroad. That is what is called the forex reserve. The forex reserve stands in between Nigerians and the outside world, so that when you want to buy any product abroad, you provide your naira to your bank, and it's from the stock of the dollar that the banks, which includes the central bank, transfers from the foreign reserve, which is denominated in a convertible currency like the dollar, to another country. If everybody buys anything that he wants from America, from any other country, from the stock of the dollar that we have, which is the foreign reserves, the forex reserves, that means we can't finish the foreign reserves within a very short time. Nominally, countries try to ensure that the reserves that they have of the foreign currency is enough to carry their imports for at least 6 months. In that case, you would want to regulate the exchange rate between your local currency and the foreign convertible currency that you use to buy items from outside in such a fashion that people will not buy flimsy things like toothpick. And then the stock of the dollar will be available for us to use to buy essential commodities like medicines, machinery, and others. Based on this, you will understand that the exchange of your currency to the dollar depends largely on the quantity of reserves of the dollar that you have. In Nigeria, the most income into the forex reserve is the oil we sell, because we don't produce enough to sell outside the country in order to gain to earn dollar into the reserve. If you look at your screen, you'll see a list of countries and their forex reserves. Nigeria's forex reserve is about 40 billion US dollars. If you place it over a population of 223 million estimated population of Nigerians, you have the reserve per capita of $181. Means that if each one of us uses the 181 uses $181, or let's say it this way, each one of us is entitled to only $181 out of this reserve. A country like India has a reserve per capita of about $416. South Africa has a reserve per capita of $1,000. And Hong Kong, which is the highest, has a reserve per capita of about $55,000. This means that each of these countries would try to make or select their exchange rate in such a fashion that they will not deplete their dollar stock within the shortest period of time, and the country will become broke. In such a manner, the exchange rate of Nigeria of about $1,600 as seen on the CBN website is actually determined in such a fashion that it will discourage imports, and we will rely more on the locally manufactured goods and services. The problem with the exchange rate in Nigeria is really not the value of the exchange. It is the volatility of the exchange rate. If the exchange rate is stable, even if it was 3,000 naira to the dollar, it will enable us to plan. It will enable business people to plan. But imagine that you send your child to school in America when $1 was 800 naira, based on the income that you are earning. And you later found that, fast forward like 6 months later, you find that the dollar price has doubled, as the case now. to 1,600. Definitely, your plan would have been shattered. But if the dollar was 3,000 and it was stable, you would at that point decide whether to send your child, or whether you earn enough to send your child to um, America for studies or not. And then you make relevant plans to do that. That happens even with business people. Another advantage of having our dollar exchange rate to be high is that local economies or local production is likely going to increase, because demands for local products will increase, since you have the the foreign materials or foreign products are going to be too expensive for you to buy. When dollar was 500 or 800 naira last year to the dollar, naira was 800 naira, 800 naira to dollar was 800 naira to the dollar. Maybe I could afford to buy a jacket from America for, say, $500. By the time dollar goes to 1,600 naira, I would have to take a bigger consideration how to source for my jacket locally. I'll now start looking for somebody in Nnewi that does jackets, and then I will warn him to ensure that he does a very wonderful jacket for me. And probably I'll pay him the equivalent of $500, as at the time it was 800 to the naira. In that case, we have a Nigerian company somewhere that has earned dollars, has earned money, and will retain his um, his workers, which also helps to provide jobs. Not exactly an advocate that the exchange rate should be very high, because at the end of the day, if it's too high, there are essential materials that we may not be able to buy, especially raw materials and machinery. When raw materials that we're getting from outside the country become too expensive, even products that we make here in Nigeria will also be expensive. The table that I have on the screen, economies that have very much larger um, reserves have actually depreciated their currencies. An example is Indonesia. Indonesia has a reserve per capita of about $447. Their exchange to the dollar is 14,000 to $1. You can be assured that Indonesia is a very productive economy. Another one that we need to look closely is South Korea. South Korea has a reserve per capita of about 8,100 US dollars per person. Their exchange rate to the dollar is 1,282 units of their currency. Firstly, or if we look at Hong Kong, Hong Kong has a reserve per capita of 55,000 US dollars. Their exchange rate obviously is low at $7.69. For Indonesia and South Korea, a very productive economy, what they are looking at is how to discourage imports and encourage more exports. In order not to take too much of your time, I hope this video has helped to clarify some of the issues surrounding the exchange rate, and that from now henceforth we will understand the struggle that the central bank is doing to ensure that they get a good balance for our exchange rate. Thank you.